Modern Warfare 4 is a rumored title from Infinity Ward. I mean, it's a given that
Yeah.
if they do another COD in 2026, which I believe they are, it'll be a Modern Warfare entry. They have to respectfully close out the rebooted Modern Warfare narrative. There is so much that needs to be explained, explored, and I think followed up on that MW3 unfortunately didn't. So I'm looking forward to seeing Infinity Ward's next step. So I just made a vid on this a couple of days ago. You actually hopped in with me to pick up some old DMZ gameplay because unfortunately, I think I lost a lot of my good DMZ footage from my old hard drive that got corrupted. So we re-downloaded Modern Warfare 2, hopped into DMZ. Obviously, you can still play it to this day. It is still free to play.
Yep.
It is in beta through Warzone, so to speak. And we hopped on. and right away, I was thinking back to that final statement Call of Duty put out about DMZ, right? Like, they're excited to keep DMZ in beta so that it could provide some context and research for future open world projects that they'll inevitably make. And obviously, DMZ may never come back until an Infinity Ward game. I don't think Sledgehammer or Treyarch will ever necessarily do something like this. I think when DMZ initially came out, it was pretty clear to all of us that the plan for MW2, for whatever reason, wasn't even to really do Battle Royale or Resurgence right away. It was to have DMZ be that free-to-play mode. And then Warzone became like some afterthought that was built on top of DMZ, which was really odd. I don't know if the plan was to keep Warzone 1 active. Was it to fade it out and just have DMZ be the free mode for a while? I don't know what was happening there. But we also had, just for a bit of context here, we had the raids. And Spec Ops released pretty bare bones in Modern Warfare 2. Only a couple of missions, very basic. It was just essentially some survival type of experience. The missions weren't too crazy. There was one or two that were kind of open, right? They utilized Al Mazrah and, utilized stealth. Cool to beat. I mean, there weren't any crazy rewards or anything for completing them. I think they were just necessary for the platinum trophy. Raids provided us with essentially new Spec Ops missions over the course of a couple of seasons. We got 4 raid episodes total. I believe a 5th one got scrapped or saved for like an MW3 campaign mission. And the raids were also limited to 3 players, just like DMZ. The rumor, as of now, is that Extraction still has a place in Call of Duty. I know Epic Games is working on some Extraction that might be tied to Fortnite. We know Bungie's working on Marathon, like a remake of that game that's going to be Extraction-based. I don't think Extraction is going anywhere just yet, and I think we've only just seen popularity for Extraction get pretty hot over the last few years. As of lately, it's been kind of quiet. I know that. I know Tarkov, comes and goes here and there with popularity, but according to Insider the Ghost of Hope, who has reported on a number of accurate Call of Duty details in the past, he's claiming that DMZ is actually going to be the 3rd mode in Modern Warfare 4 instead of Spec Ops, and they've essentially combined raids and DMZ. He also mentioned that DMZ will have its own map, will not be reusing the Warzone map. Ground War and multiplayer for this game will allegedly be borrowing the DMZ map, though. Interesting. What does that mean, though? And you can take it away here. That would mean that DMZ won't be free this time around. That means the only free version of DMZ to exist will be the beta version that was in Modern Warfare 2. How do you feel first about it not being free? And then what are you thinking about the possibility of seeing like raids and DMZ combined together into one, which could make for some very interesting content that, again, will be kept separate from whatever is done with Warzone in 2026?
Yeah, I think DMZ as a free-to-play mode, I think that really helped it. I think that, it's a new thing. People, you hop in for free, right? That was probably one of the biggest pulls for it. You can go play this random full, or this massive game that was just sort of just randomly came out of nowhere in terms of, the sort of patterns Call of Duty follows. And I think it was accepted very, very well. A lot of people loved it. There's a full community throughout the entire year. A full community was built around it. We saw that, a lot with the content we created on it. There was a big appetite for that sort of thing in Call of Duty, a more casual approach to it, and it was getting updated a fair amount until about season 3 or 4 of MW2. But there's a lot of things that DMZ did good, and one of those things, I think it was because it was free to play. So now I think what they're going to see is like, oh, we're going to have to monetize this somehow. They tried to do that with the benefits through the DMZ bundles and in Modern Warfare 2, but they're like, okay, how can we just get the money right off the bat from people, from the DMZ community and the the fan base that this is sort of created over the small time it was actually being updated, and then to make it basically the paid third mode, basically the zombies mode, like MWZ.
Right.
And I don't know. I think that's where it goes to die. I don't think that's going to be good for the mode. I think one of the charms of that mode was that it's just like you could just hop in at any time, regardless. Even if you're not even a Call of Duty fan, you can just hop in and play it. I know a lot of people that straight up just wanted to play DMZ and nothing else, and maybe that's what Activision sees, where they're like, "Oh, we're just going to capitalize off this people that only want to play DMZ by making them buy the full game." That's probably what's happening. I think it's sad to see, and I think that I think it's going to hurt DMZ a little bit. It's just going to kind of be self-contained like Blackout, and also just 100% confirms that it's not going to be updated past that game's life cycle again.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, okay, that also gives it a timer, right?
Exactly.
I believe DMZ is one of those projects that Infinity Ward should start, kind of like Modern Warfare Zombies, but a bit different, where a studio starts it, like gives birth to it, and then updates it for, however long, and then, passes the baton to whoever to keep it going a little bit longer. I feel like DMZ was that kind of project where it could be a war zone, essentially, where it can get updates even when other premium CODs are out. And that goes into
100%.
a deeper discussion about Warzone being, disconnected from the premium franchise so they could do its own things. I don't mind having, the premium COD get its updates. We cover that. I don't mind Warzone having like a separate battle pass and a separate progression system we can also grind through. I wouldn't mind DMZ having big extraction updates, because imagine if you had all that in sync. Essentially, you'd have a lot of content to look forward to apart from just beginning of one season, beginning of a mid-season, crossover update. You'd have even more in between that if these other projects are also getting some love from different studios. And you would think, right, with the Microsoft acquisition, maybe they can pull some other studios to do that, or they can hire other people. Like, in a perfect world, that'd be great. I think DMZ has so much potential to be its own thing. But the tweet also said that they are currently considering whether or not it's going to be PvE or PvP. And I also believe if you take out the PvP aspect of DMZ, that I think completely butchers it. I think that ruins a lot of what gave DMZ the charm that it had. A lot of the viral clips and moments and interactions. I mean, we already saw DMZ suffer a little bit when they nerfed platoons, right? You were able to form a 6-man squad, 3v3. They changed that to only being able to have a 4-man squad, so just adding one extra player. Depending on how many players you can jump in with in this DMZ 2.0, like, I'm curious to see how that even looks, right? Because you limit the amount of players that could join, and then maybe even limit it to just being, your squad going in against AI. Like, I'm sorry, I just think when it comes to going up against AI, like, it's either zombies, aliens, dinosaurs, monsters, or that's it. Like, I can't see too much replay value in just going up against AI soldiers. I don't think that attracts enough people.
Even with MWZ, like, they're eventually hit a point in MWZ where people just didn't want to play it anymore. There was no real threat after a certain point. You have all the schematics, you have a maxed out stash. It just kind of gets boring. And I think that's where DMZ really picked up the slack in that, where every game you could be potentially versing a worthy adversary
and taking their loot or their dog tags
and taking their loot.
Yeah,
and taking their loadout weapons. And that was just even when it came down to weapon cases, like, weapon cases are just like absolute cinema. The rewards did get really bad toward the end, but that exact system was just amazing. And to sort of see there's even talks about it making just PvE, it's like, we will not be there. We will not be seated.
It just,
if that happens. The rush was just awesome.
The only way that would work, and I could be completely wrong about this, but the only way that would work, in my opinion, is if you have so much content. You have raid-like quests that are lengthy. If you have extremely crazy faction missions, side quests, weapon cases, if you have so damn much offered all the time, like act mission equivalent from MW3, but with crazy post-launch support, that's the way you do it. The reason why DMZ got sweaty, obviously aside from like weapon balancing, is there wasn't enough to do at a certain point. So what is there to do when playing is to go after other people, right? If you have a small B21 size map, that's different. You're gonna have a lot more PvP than anything. But you talk about like the bigger maps, Al Mazrah, Vandal, even Ashika, people aren't as inclined to, I think, go up against other players unless they really have to, if they're working on so many other things. Or when there's no objectives, like you mentioned MWZ, when you have everything and you're super OP and there's nothing left to do, then either why play or why not go up against as many real people as you can and just take them out. So that's the only scenario where I see PvE working for this, but I think that's going too far away from what made DMZ special in the first place. Is if you eliminate PvP, it's already maybe not going to be free to play, so it's already going to be restricted to, X amount of people. We'll see. We'll see. I'm curious to know how many people out there didn't own Modern Warfare 2 but still play DMZ. I'm sure maybe a good amount, or maybe they saw some data that said, hey, a lot of folks that play DMZ already own the premium game, so it shouldn't be a problem charging for the mode after a certain point. Maybe it guarantees that it'll get better updates over the course of a few seasons because it is a paid mode. Who knows? Either way, we know it's probably not going to spread Warzone too thin with this project existing. But I don't know about you. I'm real excited about what the future holds, because apparently Infinity Ward's, not going to repeat the same mistakes. They're going to probably provide us with a fairly solid multiplayer on par with Modern Warfare 3 from Sledgehammer. I think they'll probably be more in tune with that as far as this next project goes. But